Hi, this is Florian for 99 Startups, and today I have a new guest, so introduce yourself.
Hi, Florian. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm Victor. I'm part of the innovation team at ERGO. Before that, I founded my own company after studies. And now I'm helping ERGO to innovate in the insurance industry.
So how did you get your job? Like, how did you start in ERGO and how did you land where you are today?
Yeah, actually, funny story. So I've been part with my startup in the Axel Springer plug-and-play accelerator at that times. And ERGO had a partnership program with Axel Springer. And once we were done basically with our startup, one of the ERGO employees that were part in the accelerator was actually our first customer. And then he approached me and said, hey, you know what? We are looking for people that are not coming from the insurance industry, that have more like an entrepreneurial drive and background. And I think he would be like a great addition to the team. And whether I could imagine joining ERGO. And at that point of time, I was really unsure about it. And then we agreed that I start as a freelancer. And I did it for 1 year, actually. And then after 1 year, I joined ERGO full time.
And you started as a company builder in the company itself, or what was your job you did as freelancer for ERGO?
Basically, I did the same job. So I'm working as a project manager in the innovation department, which means together with our internal departments, we are building new digital products or services to either create, enhance efficiency, create new services for our customers. And one of our main focus is always to explore new technologies. So when we see something coming up, whether it was chatbots or voice applications in the past, now we're doing that with VR. We are doing a lot of things with PSD2, IoT, whatsoever. We are the department that tackles new technologies and try to make them work for the company.
So it was like always the job description for the department, yes? So your job is to find new technologies and to analyze them. How could be the value for the insurance field?
Yeah, exactly. But we are just being like one part of a larger strategy, of course. So there are departments that are investing in startups. There are departments that check back with our internal stakeholders, what are their needs, and looking for startups that could like fill these needs. There are departments that are focusing on ecosystem development, especially for mobility. Then we have an internal department where we founded a new company. So we are building a new insurance company from inside. So there are a lot of initiatives going on, obviously, within the transformation of ERGO. And we are one part of it, trying to build products and services using new technologies to enhance our business.
So then let's start from the beginning. So how would you define innovation? What is innovation for you?
Tough question, definitely. I guess I'm not so. If I'm looking at our department, I'm not that bullish that you're saying we need to completely change our business model or whatsoever. So currently, I think coming from the digital, digital scene, knowledge about all the startups or what is possible with new technologies, and then watching established processes and then bringing both worlds together and creating something new and get it on a whole new level to better support our employees and, of course, to enhance our customer experience. that's already like a huge step that we can take. On the long run, obviously, we definitely need to check whether the whole business model changes, and we need to be aware of all changes that are going on in the broader society, in the requirements from our customers, what they're expecting from us, and stuff like that.
So how do you prioritize then if you find something? Like how do you work then with it? If you're working with chatbots or you're working with augmented reality, how do you value it then? Like how do you give points to it? How do you work then with the topic?
Basically, we focus on 3 different things. So first thing that we take into consideration is the technology mature enough? So is the technology already ready to be implemented in our company, and how early is it? The second thing is how do we create value? So we focus on 4 different dimensions. So either create brand reputation, to increase customer satisfaction, to reduce costs, or to increase revenue, obviously. So where on these 4 impact dimensions is that project? And lastly, we are also checking our internal stakeholders. Obviously, in a large corporation, you have stakeholders that are more willing to take risks or more willing to try new things. And there are departments that are a bit more hesitant and not so risk-taking. And being honest, we are just at that point a bit opportunistic, and we choose the departments we like to work with, and where we also know we will get that live. Because also for us, our job is more satisfying if we work on a project that actually ends up being implemented. Because otherwise is no reason for us. So that are the main 3 things that we are watching at before deciding what kind of project we're taking on.
So how long you stay in the project? So when is it finished for you? Like how do you define the finish point?
Yeah. So when I really remember it quite well when we had a new strategy program coming out, and there was probably a large consultancy giving us this slide and saying, that's how you do innovation now. And it's like this 130-90 whatsoever process that you should follow. And then you do the handover to the internal departments. And if you're really running the projects, you're realizing very early that none of the project is like another, and there can't be like a fixed process on how the project is developing. I think what is important that you still implement your milestones and also kind of stage gates where you say we continue the project or also we are shutting it down. But definitely some projects need a bit more support also in the longer run. Some projects are easier to hand over. For example, with the chatbot thing, we know, okay, we're building the first case, the first use case. And if it's running, and if it's also running with our customers and we get good feedback, then from there on, it was super easy because we could tell the internal department, okay, you want a second use case, just take these externals for X amount of money per use case, and you can increase the use cases and you can automate your conversations.
Yeah.
However, with other products, it's a bit a larger problem. So you say, okay, we need to do a whole marketing and sales concept. We need really take the go-to market. And then we see, okay, maybe the project is working, maybe the product is not working, maybe we need to adapt to another round again. And then when we see, okay, we can really generate sales or we can really reduce costs, and then it's a point of time where you can say, now we can hand it over. I think it comes with this level of uncertainty. So at what point of time it becomes plannable for an internal department. So at what point of time they can say, okay, we need to put that amount of resources for that point of output into that project, and then we can maintain it. And that is a really good point to hand over. The more uncertainty you have, the more we are involved. The less uncertainty, the better you hand it over.
That's a really nice summary. Yeah, that's a really good point. How do you handle resources, especially if you said like there's a lot of different technology knowledge needed, or then there may be coming developers in to build certain stuff, or maybe marketing know-how. So how do you handle that? Do you do all yourself in your department, or do you cooperate or use freelancers? What's your strategy there?
So we are very often involving externals, especially if we are working with technologies that we are not experts in. So my colleagues that are like me, more from a generalist perspective, so we are good in product management, but we are not the expert in virtual reality, obviously. So we enhance our team with externals, and we also very much like to work very, very close with them. So me personally, I'm not a huge fan of hiring an agency and saying that's what we want, like, and then we will see each other in three months and you come back and deliver it. I really like hire freelancers, or maybe also like 1 or 2 employees of an agency, and then mingle together here in our Berlin office. Say we are really working together as a project team, and we will deliver it together, and we will be involved every week in every planning, in every backlog discussion whatsoever. And then obviously we are dependent on our internal stakeholders. So the know-how very often of the process of the product is always coming from the internals. So we always also need volunteers from them that they're involved in the product. And then we see sometimes what we can handle internally. So for example, ERGO built up a huge IT department in Poland, where we especially hired new in quotation marks, developers from a newer tech stack and whatsoever. So we also have like very good experience working with them together. And if they are free and they have resources, we also very much like to use them and to work with them. But within our department, at least we have the freedom to also hire externals.
Yeah, definitely good. So you have probably a fixed budget, and you need to kind of move this project in this budget, kind of, and then in this area, in this borders, you can do whatever you want, kind of, and then see if you reduce the uncertainty. So do you have examples where you say you needed to stop a project and you didn't get it with full power on the street and can give it to someone who would take it over, where you need to say, okay, it's not ready enough, or the certainty showed it's not working? What are examples of that?
We have to be honest, and especially in innovation, there are of course coming projects that we need to stop at some day, and I think we also need to see it as a good sign, because if we wouldn't need to stop any project, it would mean that we didn't push hard enough. So if we're just doing very little improvements, then obviously the majority should go live. But if we do bigger shots, then definitely we need to shut them down at one point of time.
Yeah.
So actually there was like one project, it was very much attached to me, that is an insurance product for digital nomads, which I still believe is a great product idea. But nevertheless, we needed to realize at one point of time that due to various compliance reasons and complexity, if you want to build like a health insurance product compliant in every country in the world, is like a huge challenge. And we definitely like learned a lot during the process, and me personally learned also a lot about how building insurance products. But nevertheless, at the end, we failed on that point and couldn't bring it live because we weren't able to tackle all the legal and compliance issues on that part. I think that is still something that we may take over in the future if regulation change or whatever. And there we needed to close it down. But at the end, it was also important at one point of time to close it, because if it takes too long, it's just taking too much space from your focus. It's taking too much time and resources for a project that won't go live. And if you then have kind of stage gates and look like where have you got to, and what do you think, like how much will it take to get it done? And if it's not feasible, then be sure to close it and to invest your time in other more feasible projects. And that was like a hard discussion, because I really believed in the project idea. But for now, afterwards, I can say it was like a correct decision, because it freed us up for doing other projects.
Yeah, I think it's also one of the hardest things to do, to stop what you think is right and to stop this path and to do a different path, and to make this decision is one of the hardest decisions you do as an innovation manager, definitely. So, and the key factors you already said, like check what's needed to be there, check the track record until now, and see what's the projection saying. And if the projection is not so good, then be honest enough to say, okay, that's not a good invest of our time and resources. We should do something else, even if it hurts, even if it's a good idea, even if it's good market. If the projection is not good, probably it's time to do something else. So what are examples of successful projects, like successful stuff, innovation stuff you did?
Yeah,
or you guys did as a company?
Yeah, for example, if we really look at our department, one great initiative that we definitely did was our topic regarding voice. So it was already 2 years ago where we said, okay, we see a rise in usage of Alexa, of Siri and Google Assistant and whatsoever, and we want to be part of that. And then we decided, okay, we are exploring that field. And what we did is we built 3 easy use cases with Alexa for 3 different topics. One was our motor insurance, one for our travel insurance. We actually have been like the first insurance that you could buy via Amazon Alexa and also Amazon Pay. And that's how we like kind of got into the technology. And then we realized, okay, what we learned in that process, we can also use in different use cases. And obviously, the big value creation in voice assistants is not via the assistance itself, but it's in our telephone. Because if we can create a conversation over the assistant, we can definitely also use the same conversation in our telephone.
Yeah.
And once we started using that knowledge in the telephone, there we had like the huge business value, because we could like automate, I don't know, like damage claims or whatsoever. Then now we are the telephone. And that actually went that far that like we created a whole new unit within ERGO that is now only doing voice conversations and voice bots. And they're really enhancing all the time, building new use cases, and several employees now working specifically in that department. That definitely has been like a huge success for us.
Yeah, nice example. You also said that like you're especially not scared of big innovations, bigger parts, bigger goals, and then you're getting into the field of disruption. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's what everybody aims for, right? Everybody wants to disrupt the whole industry. I think for us, what like ERGO did, not me personally, but what ERGO did is that already 4 years ago, they decided to build a new insurance company on the green field. And it's still doing insurances, but all the processes behind are done completely differently. So there's a completely different model on how we evaluate risk. There's a completely different model on how we are doing services. There's a completely different IT infrastructure. There's a completely new branding, and so on and so on. And that always gives also ERGO an example on how you also can do insurance business and what kind of KPIs you can actually achieve, and then learn from that and then implement it also for your business. And I think that has been already like a huge shot, definitely. The second thing that we are also fostering is this ecosystem development. And that's also a bit different because we are maybe giving up the customer channel, but we are really working as a partner within the industry. So one example is our partnerships with the automotive industry. Yeah. For example, if you are in your BMW and you say, oh, I want to have a great weekend and I'm going on Nürburgring and I need an insurance for the Nürburgring, you can like book the insurance inside your car. So in the car menu, you're booking in the insurance and you actually don't care from which company it's coming from. But it's us behind, and that's also how we get revenue. And that obviously requires completely new IT infrastructure solutions, completely new product solutions. And that also required us for building a new company only working on those partnerships. And that also has been like a huge success for us. And then lastly, I think what we already see with voice, but also with other internal technologies, we can think about whether we will also be a potential tech supplier to other insurance or insurance companies or banking industry, for example. So if we are creating phone bots for claim damages, they'll definitely be relevant also to other companies, obviously. And we will be definitely in the competition with the traditional tech suppliers, but reporting a hail damage via phone is very much specific and might be like an interesting topic also for other companies. So maybe in the long run, we will have like certain technologies that we may also offer to other industries. And that's definitely then a huge change.
Yeah, that's correct. So if you have good things running on your side, which could be valuable for different companies, it makes sense to bring them on as well. There's a reason why Amazon built Amazon Web Services, because they need to make sure that their e-commerce shop is always available, and then build a really nice infrastructure, and then got the idea, hey, someone else could probably use this infrastructure as well. So yeah, definitely a good point. So if we are already in this area, where do you think will be the insurance sector in 5 years, in 10 years? Where will the developing go?
Hard to look in the future, obviously. I think one trend that we can see, also one direction that we want to explore a bit more, is obviously the topic of prevention, because usually people don't want to have like the damage and then get like reimbursed fast or anything, and that like by a nice application or like a good mobile page, and I don't know, you can see your transparent status and whatever you want to do. That's obviously minimum requirement today, but actually you don't want to have the damage itself. Yeah. So in the future, we will definitely have to see how can we be a good partner for our customers in preventing damages. And obviously, technology will play a huge part in that. In every in every area of your life, be it at home, be it on the go. And we need to find a way to be relevant in your everyday life to prevent you from damages. And then maybe we are not reimbursing, like we're not charging you for reimbursement, like we're not getting a premium and then reimbursing you for damage, but you will pay us like a little monthly fee for us helping you preventing the damages.
Yeah.
And that definitely could be a huge change in the insurance business.
Yeah.
But
This could, could change the whole business model, how it works. It's like similar, like if companies, like the car companies realize you don't want to own a car, you just want to be driving from A to B. So this changes their business model as well. If they just rent out the time in the car, it could be similar that like you guys say, okay, we go more on the prevention and we charge that to prevention itself. And well, interesting way, interesting. Could be an interesting future in this way. So if a young person would come to you and say, oh, I want to become an innovation manager as well, what would be your recommendations to him to go the right path? Let's say he's finished with school. So what would be the best steps for him? The next best steps?
Yeah, I think that the best steps is always to use all the available resources and do something by your own. Like create a small web shop, create your own podcast. I don't know, whatever you are like passionate about, he definitely should pursue that. And I think if somebody is applying for like an innovation, digital, whatever position, they should prove that they have knowledge in that. And it's like not in theory, but it's in practice. You need to be out, you need to talk to customers, you need to receive feedback, you need to iterate your idea. You need to see that it's very much also about execution, not like your idea that doesn't bring you anywhere. There are so many things, and that just happens if you really do it. So I could just like encourage everybody not to talk about it, but to just do it. And also when it fails and like half a year later you say, okay, I'm shutting it down. That's totally fine. But you really like create something tangible that it's like in the market, like push yourself out there and like receive feedback. And then work with that. And it doesn't have to do anything with money, because nowadays there are like so many open resources that you can use to create something, which mainly requires your time and investment to learn the things. There are like webinars and free courses for basically everything. So sit down, study, and like bring something out in the market. That's like the best learning you definitely can do. And then you also can help every other company doing these experiments. So that would be advice, I guess.
I completely agree on the execution part you mentioned, 100%. But I would add something. Probably I would advise this person to focus on the problem first, because solution is the one thing and execution is the other thing. But understanding the problem and have passion for the problem is really valuable, because as better you understand the problem, as more with solutions you can come up and then try out. And the other things you already mentioned is like, don't be scared of things you don't know or you have no idea how to do it. Just starting to learn it and try it out and figuring out how it goes, because nothing is rocket science. So everything is possible, and you only know what you can do and what you can't do if you try it out. And then you will see where the way leads you. And then the only next hard thing is to figuring out when is the right time to stop and do something else. This is then always the hardest next thing to do, to figuring out when to try the next thing in the same field, because you already know a lot, you already tried a lot. And when to say, okay, I should do something else.
I think regarding the problem focus, it's definitely correct. But I think the hard part is that usually if you have an idea, the idea already consists of the solution. So very often, like people, I think when they're like under the shower or they observe something, they say, oh yeah, we could like do this to solve that problem. So they very often have like a solution in mind.
Yeah.
And I also think it's a good starting point because it gets you moving, it gets you started. However, like the important part is being open enough to change the solution during the way.
Yeah.
So if you think we can like start with this, like go start with it and then do your first tests and then be open enough to adapt the solution to something else. And then it will lead you somewhere. And yeah, I think that's like the important part of it.
Yeah, completely agree. And also to add to it, test as fast as possible. Like don't build something for 1 year and then test it. No, draw something on a piece of paper, write a story and tell someone the story, and then try to figure out what the reaction is. Test as fast as possible, because the truth, if your idea is good or not, doesn't lie in you. It lies on the people which should benefit from this solution, and only their decision is valuable. And then the next thing to add to figuring out if it's how valuable for them it is, check if they give you money for it. Money speaks on this point truth, not like to be greedy or something. No, it means it's really valuable for them. So valuable that they give you their money or maybe their time. So if it's a social thing, their time is also a good indication that your solution is really good. Otherwise, you have the trouble that maybe people just want to be nice to you. And this could be also a trap. Cool.
I think that what we also did with the nomad insurance idea, for example, like we just sat down, built like a very easy web page, like just like I don't know, WordPress, whatever, like just what you can done in a day. And then there was like a breakfast in a co-working space we were part of, and then in that breakfast we said, yeah, we launched a new product called Digital Nomad Insurance. Who want to buy it? And like we will be there like after 10 o'clock in that office and you can come by. And like we didn't have anything. Like we just had the name, it was just the idea, and we like built a page, and then like we waited for people coming and then used that to ask them what kind of like insurance protection do they really need? Like, because that was like the only thing we had. And yeah, I think that was like a good example on how little you could like start to already get some feedback from your idea. And yeah, therefore you're definitely correct. Can just like put a +1 on your testing.
Correct. So especially if you work in innovation and startup field, maybe also, how do you think about work-life balance? So how do you handle personally your work-life balance?
Yeah, I think it's a super important topic. Everybody should definitely observe themselves, and I also experienced it with friends of mine that like either had already like kind of first burnout syndromes or either also body reactions. So definitely everybody needs to observe that, and everybody also needs to find his ways to relax and to recharge. And I have to be honest, like for me, work-life balance, I don't know whether I'm really agreeing to the term, because I don't would be like separating too much between work and life. Because I think if people say like, I need to work for my life, I think it's like, it could lead to like a trap, and it makes you a bit miserable, because if I'm thinking about work, it's like a huge part of my life, and I like what I'm doing, and I never have this issue of, oh no, it's Monday morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, I don't know, and now I need to get to work, and like the next 8 hours are shit. It's just, if you like what you're doing and like you have fun and you have like nice colleagues, then the general day is already fine. And then I think also like in the evening, you like still you're not completely stressed out or whatsoever. And then I think it's totally fine if you also sometimes work a bit later. Sometimes if you then, I don't know, on a Sunday, you like say, okay, I want to prepare my week. I want to be relaxed for that. I think that's totally fine because it doesn't feel like a burden. It's like not that it's getting you down. And then it's totally fine. And if it's not the case for you, then maybe change the job. Because it's the majority of your time you're spending on your job. So try to get that right. And then, obviously find your times to spend with friends, to do sports, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. It's like interesting. I think it's also a really big point in energy perspective. So does your job give you energy or take energy of you? Or if it's not, it's normally not always one or the other. It's probably a mix. But the end of the week is the question, or end of the year is the question, did it give you more energy or did it take more energy in the long run? This is also probably something which is really important to keep an eye on and like to manage your energy well, and probably also keep your priorities correct. So how you said, like work should be passionate, work should be fun, you should like your work, and then but also keep your other priorities, whatever they will be, in check, and then see how this balances out at the end of the day. How you said, like meet friends, do sports, and so on. Because normally there's a saying: if you're lying there and you're about to die at the end of your life, you never say, "Oh fuck, I should have done more work. I should have worked these days more." Normally, this rarely happens.
Yeah.
So, the second last question I would have for you is, what are your favorite books?
Also a tough question, I guess. But I mean, there's so many good books out there, and I also think, I don't know, like there are like probably way more successful people than me that already shared their favorite books, and you can definitely have a look at them. But I think what is important, what I needed to learn is how do you read and how do you like remember things well. So like like investigate whether you can better read in the morning or you can better read in the evening, whether you should like listen to books via, I don't know, Audible, or whether you need these small summaries from Blinkist or whatever, or whether you really want to read the whole book, or whether you need to read newspapers. So try to analyze like what is the best way for you to read, and do you read for personal growth? Then like take these books, or do you read for relaxing? Then maybe you read more fiction or whatever. So I think be more conscious about what you're really reading and when you're reading. And for me, it was super interesting. I had a podcast with Naval Ravikant, and he said, well, like he is reading. He reads one page and then analyzes what was inside and starts Googling and wants to get behind it, because once you really get behind it, you really remember it, and it stays in your head. And that was for me super interesting, to maybe not like directly read it as a whole and like within one night, but yeah. So my advice is more be conscious about when to read, and like for what reason, and then choose the books for it. But I think there are like a lot of advices already out there.
I really like your advice, and I really like your point, but I don't let you from the hook. So which books helped you the most in last year or this year for your specific situation?
Yeah. So, okay, let me name one. It's called Essentialism. And it's one that really stuck with me, and that I already also like gave as a present to a lot of my friends. And one particular reason I really liked it, it has a really great drawing inside. So it has like a small circle, and then a lot of arrows in every direction of the circle, because you're doing like 360-degree, a lot of different projects mainly, and you're not getting really far. And then there's another circle with only one arrow, and that gets you really far. And that is like a great image of like prioritize and focus maybe only on one project, because then you can really get far. And the other one is like doing 15 projects, but you're only getting a very little. And that was a great image that always stuck with me. And therefore, essentialism is one that I can recommend.
Cool. Thank you very much. And my last question is, if you could go back in time to your 18-year-old self, what kind of advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, probably that will ever change. So when you ask me in a week, that will be maybe something else. I don't know.
Then we will hear each other in 1 week, by the way.
I think what I really like currently is, it's also an image I heard in another podcast, I think, and he said you should kind of organize your life like an athlete. So if you look at a sports athlete, for example, then you have like your training period, you have like your performance period, your execution, and then you have your resting period, and then you return in that circle. So you train, you execute, and then you rest, and then you train again, you execute again, and you rest again. Maybe always on a different level. So because you're getting always better. And that circle can be definitely transferred to also your other areas in your life. So in the other areas in your life, try to use that, try to behave like an athlete. So whether it's building like friendships, or it's like building your skills at work, there's like times where you train, there's like times where you use them, and then there's also maybe times where you like rest a bit and enjoy the moment, and then you like train again and execute. And so that's how you get further. And I definitely would tell my 18-year-old that image and to encourage it.
Do you have an example how you implemented it, or how someone could implement it in an easier way? Because it sounds like a really cool concept, but I would spontaneously don't have a good idea how to implement it in a daily life, like in a regular things to do life.
Yeah, I think technology actually offers you a good way on that. I don't know, for example, if you see something very structured like programming, I think there's definitely times where you can say, okay, I'm learning a new coding language. Then you're executing because you're building a product. Then you can use the product, which would be then the resting period, and then like you train where you like can enhance like a different language on top, or how can you like enhance the product. Then you execute it again and continue building it, and like moment by moment you will definitely get better on it. And but like remind yourself of that process, that you need to train, execute, and rest on that period.
So it's probably about to focus on a certain area with that, because focus is one thing, and then be remember that like you have this 4 phases in this focus area, and then work through them. And then if you're really good, you can probably have several focus areas at the same time, because it's hard to do something 24 hours. Normally you have always context changes. So yeah, okay, makes sense.
I mean, you think what you always, it's also funny, a lot of people when they're saying, I don't know, I'm going out for a run because I want to be healthy or something. But very often like people just go out and run and like just say that I'm doing sports. But if you're doing like as an athlete, you're saying, okay, I put like a target saying, I don't know, this week I'm doing 10 kilometers at that point of time. And then you try to reach it, and then you train for it, and so on and so forth. And you get like better over time. And you're not just saying, I'm running. And I think that's important to remember. So it's also about creating targets where you can train for or build the skills up for, and then reestablish that over time.
Yeah, definitely a really good point. So awesome. So Victor, do you have something for the end you wanna say to the audience?
No, I'm good. I guess 50 minutes already had enough time.
Then I would say thank you very much that you took your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much too. Thanks very much for the invitation.
And see you next time, guys. Bye-bye.